Hey, what's up, Rocket League player? So a few months back, I released a video on how to air dribble from the wall, which has like over 1,000 views now, which is crazy to me. Big thanks to everyone that's watched it. And since then, I've had a lot of followers, subscribers, and Discord members asking me to make a video on how to air dribble from the ground. So here it is. Now, before we begin, I want to give a shout out to all 36% of y'all that are subscribed to the channel. It's the easiest and freest way to support my content. And hey, what other time in your life are you going to be encouraged to press a big red button, know what I'm saying? Alright, well let's jump into it and discuss the parts of an air dribble. Just like air dribbling from the wall, the ground can be broken down in the exact same three parts: the setup, first touch, and then follow through / aiming. But for the setup, ground to air dribbles are different because, well, you're starting from the ground. So let's go over what that looks like. Now, these setups have probably much more official names, but this is what I call them: dribble pops, rolling pops, and bounce pops. Now, I went ahead and made a training pack for all of these, so feel free to use that after you watch this video. I'll put the code in the description below. For these setups, let's approach them from easiest to hardest, so we'll start with the bounce pops. Now, I consider these the easiest because the ball is already doing part of the work for you, and that is it's getting itself into the air. You just need to nudge it forward slightly, pretty much. And depending on where you are, you really don't need a lot of speed in this approach either, which can be nice. But let me talk about two quick key control points for bounce pops. Number one, don't boost into your first hit. Just tap it as you were double jumping, and I'll explain that further later on. The second key point is this: the speed in which your car is jumping into the air needs to match the speed of the ball as it's bouncing into the air. When matched, your car will stay nice and close to the ball, leading into your first aerial touch, making the whole movement easier to control. So if the ball is dropping slowly to the ground, meaning it's going to bounce slowly from the ground, then you don't need to take off like a rocket ship after it bounces. You want your speed to be matched all around. So with those key points in mind, let's break down an example of how to execute this shot. In this scenario, the ball is dropping slowly, so I'm going to get my car pretty close for this setup. How close your car needs to be will depend on how fast the ball is dropping. If it's dropping pretty quick, you'll probably want your car a little bit further away so that you can meet the ball in the air appropriately, but knowing that comes with experience. As soon as the ball touches the ground is when I immediately double jump and try and match that speed. Depending on how high the ball's bounce is going to be, will change whether or not you need to long press your jump button or short press your jump button. If you don't know what the difference is, here's a little explanation. If you long press your jump button, it'll make you jump higher. If you short press your jump button, you'll jump lower. You'll need to play around with that to get a feel of what you need depending on the situation. In most cases, I'll short press my jump buttons and compensate with my boost if my initial jump comes up a little short. This just makes things more consistent for me because I'm essentially jumping the same way every single time regardless of how high the ball is bouncing, and I make those final adjustments by boosting. Now, simultaneous with my double jump is when the tip of my car actually makes contact with the ball in the sweet spot, and I start tilting the nose of my car upwards so that it maintains contact with the sweet spot. Now, it's important to hit the ball in the sweet spot as it's leaving the ground because this will help the ball move the perfect amount upwards and the perfect amount forwards towards the goal. If you don't know where the sweet spot is, this is how you find it. All you have to do is split the ball into quarters and then split the bottom quarter that's closest to you into thirds. That middle third is the sweet spot. But I want you to keep that upper third and lower third in your head because we'll need those here in a second. So once you've executed those first two steps, all that's left is to continue your follow through and your aiming. Most players have a difficult time shooting air dribbles high in the net if they are starting from the ground, and that's because the sweet spot for that changes just slightly, hence why I told you not to forget about those other thirds. If you need to get more height on the ball, you'll want to push it from the bottom third. If you want the ball to go lower, you'll want to push it from the upper third. And that's really all you need to know for up and down adjustments. If you need to turn the ball to the right, you'll want to turn the nose of your car slightly to the left and then immediately turn it back to the right while boosting. Flip those directions if you need to turn the ball to the left. So those are the basics for the bounce to ground air dribble, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to talk about follow through and aiming for the next two setups. You can just refer back to this section if you need to freshen up on the sweet spot, follow through, or aiming. The next easiest setup is the rolling pop. And as the name suggests, this is a situation where the ball is rolling on the ground and you have the opportunity to drive into it, causing it to pop into the air where you can begin your air dribble. It's very simple, but I want to share with you some of the best tips I have for approaching these because most players have trouble controlling their speed when it comes to these. First thing you need to do is get a good pop, obviously, where the ball goes up more so than forward. What that is doing is keeping the ball closer to you, without talking about like Rocket League strategies or win to challenge. Essentially, by keeping the ball closer to you, it's going to keep your defenders further away because they know that if they go up for it, more than likely you'll beat them to the ball because you kept it closer to you. So that's why it's important that the ball goes up more so than it does forward, where more than likely the defense is waiting. Now, good pops on the ball are created by the difference in speed between your car and the ball, and it can be broken down like this. If the ball is rolling very fast, in most situations, you'll want to have your car drive slowly into it, and in some cases, not moving at all. If the ball is rolling slowly, you'll want your car driving pretty quick so that you can get a nice pop into the air. And if the ball isn't too fast or too slow, then same thing applies to your car. You won't have to boost into it and you won't have to slow yourself down too much because the ball has a nice roll. Ultimately, you are looking to create this kind of motion with the ball. It keeps the ball close to you, once again, which is important when factoring in the defense, and it gives you enough time to get up to the ball to start your air dribble. Speaking of which, let's talk about how to do that. Now, these setups are way easier to do if you know how to fast aerial. However, you can slow aerial up to these as well, but like the name implies, it's slower to do. If you don't know how to fast aerial, let me know in the comments below and I will make a video on it and demonstrate it. Now, whichever method you use, here's the approach to this shot. Step number 1 is making contact with the ball to get that perfect pop that I showed you before. Now, in most cases, after you get that perfect pop, the ball is still going to be traveling away from you and towards the net. Because of that, after the ball has popped into the air, you'll want to immediately start boosting and execute your fast or slow aerial to catch up to the ball. While you are jumping up into the air, you're going to want to tilt your car backwards so that the nose of your car is aiming towards the sweet spot. The key here is don't overuse your boost. Use just enough to barely catch up to the ball, and this is the portion I was talking about where most players struggle. So here's how I like to think about this shot. Think of it as if you're trying to park the tip of your car onto the sweet spot of the ball. You're not trying to go up and smack that sucker. Just give the ball a kiss with the nose of your car in the sweet spot. Or you can think of it like you want the ball to land on the tip of your car as you're meeting in the air. For me, these two analogies kind of help me visualize how much speed I need in my approach. And after you've parked your car on the sweet spot or had the sweet spot land on your nose, follow the same follow-through steps that I showed you before for bounce pop air dribbles. Now for the last setup, let's talk about the most complicated ground to air dribble setup, and those are dribble pops. Now these are the most complicated because you need to know how to dribble and control the ball on top of your car. But I'll also say that these are the most versatile because it allows you to start an air dribble from literally anywhere on the field. Essentially, as long as you know how to get the ball on top of your car, you can literally execute these from anywhere. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to explain how to dribble the ball. If you need to learn how to do that, go watch my video on dribbling. I'll put it in the link card above. If you're still watching, I'm going to assume that you're comfortable with getting this on top of your car. So here's how you go about executing this setup. First, you want the speed of your car and the speed of the ball on your roof to be exactly matched. If the ball is rolling towards the back of your car, that means your car is going faster than the ball. If the ball is going towards the front of your car, that means your car is going slower than the ball. You need these to be synchronized, and this is extremely important. And while you're matching your speeds, you need to position your car in the right spot under the ball. For most situations, you'll want your car to be dead center on the ball indicator. If your car is too far back, when you try and double jump and actually knock this into the air, you're actually just going to send the ball launching far in front of you and you're not going to be able to catch up to it. If your car is sitting too far to the left, it's going to pop the ball off to the right. If your car is sitting too far to the right, it's going to pop the ball to the left. And if your car's too far forward, it's going to put the ball behind you, leaving you a headache of a way to try and get up and correct yourself to actually start air dribbling the ball. So in most cases, you'll want to be dead center on the ball indicator. So once your speeds are matched and you're in the right position, step 3 is to double jump. Now, I prefer to double jump and then tilt the nose of my car towards the sweet spot. But you can also execute those nearly simultaneously, much like you would for a fast aerial if you're comfortable with that. I find that my method is still fast enough for this kind of air dribble, and for me, it results in less misflips. But like I said, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Now, once you've popped the ball into the air and you've pointed your nose at the sweet spot, apply a little bit of boost to park the nose of your car into the sweet spot so you can continue the air dribble. Here are a few extra tips to help you with this setup. Number 1, unless you get an insanely high pop with the ball while you're dribbling, this method will usually require the least amount of boost for you to get the nose of your car up to the ball and into the sweet spot. A lot of players will rush this process and end up over boosting and just launching the ball with their first touch. Tip number 2 is that this method will usually cause your nose to point toward the ground during your double jump. So make sure you correct that before you start boosting, or else you'll end up positioning your car too far underneath or too far in front of the ball's motion. Air dribbles are an extremely handy mechanic to know because of how versatile they are and how much control over the ball you can get, especially when you get really good at these. So if this video helped you learn anything, please go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons. And once again, my name is Woodpecker. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.